history of burlesque. Because you would look at it and you would think, oh, modern burlesque, it's just stripping with more glitter. But if you backtrack actually to how burlesque originally started, it's more of a variety show. You would see on TV today women toting back and forth these massive ostrich feather fans, and when they're completely open, can be anywhere from like 3 to 6 feet wide, and they can use them to like cover their entire person and get across stage without being seen, and it's incredible. Or you may have seen the movie in 2010 that had Christina Aguilera and Cher in it, and Christina Aguilera saved the day by being able to sing when someone unplugged the sound system. But burlesque started better than that. Burlesque originally started in England in the 17th century. How it started was a little bit closer to, I probably already said this, a variety show type act. The opening would start with people coming on stage, usually in like tights or pants, which for the time was super nuts because they weren't wearing ruffles and big skirts and they weren't corseted and everything. They were usually dressed like men, which we now refer to as drag kings, not burlesque performers. They would typically try to like mock the patriarchy and make light of really big political issues, or they'd come through and they'd make fun of like the upper class, and they're like, look at this opera that just came out, look at how stupid it is, the protagonist is an asshole. And I'm like, it's mind-boggling to think that these women in the 17th century were going against the norm, not by a striptease and glitter, but basically by going on stage in drag and like protesting what was going on. Between these acts, because those were typically what were in the opening and in the closing, according to 2 different authors, Doherty and Kenrick, actually where all of these are coming from. They would typically come on stage and they would do their act at the very first of the act and at the very end of the act. And in between there, they would typically have people like individual musicians or magicians. I can't speak. And they would have several different people coming on. They would have people coming on doing things almost like if you would go to a show today, like contortion or something along those lines. It wasn't necessarily super common for people to come on doing something like poetry because that was an upper classes thing. But it was funny to see people coming out and sort of mocking what was going on. It was really weird to think that compared to common burlesque shows where the majority of it is dancing and music and glitter, that was only the smallest part of a burlesque show back in the 17th century when it actually started. When things became a little bit more modern, the decline of burlesque happened in the 40s when Prohibition was going on, because there was a big like lockdown on everything that was happening, because suddenly everything was scandalous. There could be no liquor at the bars where they were performing. They couldn't do anything. Things started trickling through. It died out until about the 70s when topless go-go dancers began to appear. And then they realized that introducing the striptease into burlesque may make it more popular, and since liquor was available again, would make it something that people would go see more often. A dancer that went by Little Egypt actually ended up starting more recent burlesque at the 1893 World Fair before all of this occurred with a dance type called the Hoochie Cooch. Everything in burlesque has a funnier name. Most people's burlesque names are puns. They aren't actually like their real name, because many people wanted to avoid embarrassment or a conflict with their day job, especially if they do something like they're a lawyer or a teacher, because I know several people who are in the burlesque community. Super modern burlesque was done by a woman called Millie De Leon in 1903. You may know if you're in the drag or burlesque scene in the Denton area that there's a family that uses De Leon as the ending of their stage name for this reason. She was known as the Girl in Blue or the Blue Moon, but she was also known as the first real queen of American burlesque. She was super revolutionary in that she frequently forgot her tights when she went on stage, which got her arrested on several occasions because it was illegal to go out there and perform like that. For that reason, striptease elements became super duper common because people loved it even though it was super illegal. Common burlesque that's now occurring is called neo-burlesque, and if you've ever seen like Dita Von Tess or any of her acts, she gets in like a big martini glass and has a glittery corset and the massive fans and everything's covered in Swarovski crystals. And now it's less based on being revolutionary and protesting and more based around making sure that everyone's having fun and that it's mildly comedic, but it's also set to music and you get to see people in their bodies how they're comfortable. So next time you get a chance to see a show, if you ever do and it's an environment that you're comfortable in, I'd like you to focus on how massive and how creative their props are and watch for their references to other things that are happening today. Because while they do still reference things, it's a little bit more glitzy and a little bit harder to find.